Good morning, this is your Math Sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is test review part 2 over domain and range and function notation. So what we have here is given a function g of x, and please remember that g of x just means y equals 4 parentheses negative x minus 2 squared plus 3. What's g of negative 2? And they're saying, hey, what is y? And g of x is y, and what they're asking is, what does y equal when x equals negative 2? That's what that all means. So the real tricky thing here is to make sure or the trick to this is make sure you put the variable in parentheses when you plug in. So I'm going to rewrite this with parentheses. So this is g of x equals 4 parentheses negative, put another parenthesis, x minus 2 squared plus 3. So we have g of negative 2. So I'm going to plug that right here, g of negative 2. Oh, all we did was replace that x with a negative 2. So that's what I'm going to do here, equals 4 minus parenthesis negative 2 minus 2 squared plus 3. If you will input it into Desmos just like that, all right, if you'll input it into Desmos just like that, you're going to get the answer correct every single time. So at this point, I'm going to try to switch over to Desmos and go ahead and input that information we just had. So here we go. 9, or excuse me, 4, parenthesis, negative 2, parenthesis, minus 2. We use the table down here to get the squared, plus 3. All right. So now that I think I have it in, I'm going to check it over. Make sure I have all those negatives because there's a ton of them. All right. And I do, and it gives me an answer of 3. So I see that 3 over there. And so I'm going to go back to, I'm going to stop the share and we're going to go ahead and take a look at what that means. So it told us it equals 3. And what we're going to write is g of negative 2 equals 3. That's it. We're done. Let's try this one. All right. It says f of x, and they're telling us this is negative 3. Well, so what they're asking for, and I'm going to just go ahead and redo what I just did. I'm going to rewrite it, but using parentheses, equals negative 3, parentheses, minus parentheses, x, minus 2. Well, I'm going to plug in that. So I'm going to have f of negative 3, and wherever the x is, because I just replaced this, all I said was, hey, x is negative 3, so I'm going to replace x with negative 3, equals negative 3, parentheses, negative, then a negative 3, minus 2, close those parentheses. All right, so we're going to switch back over to Desmos and see how that goes. So cut that out, and we're going to go negative 3, shift parenthesis, negative parenthesis, negative 3, close the parenthesis. Be careful with all this and close those parentheses. And we end up getting negative 3. All right. So what am I going to write? Well, I'm going to write f of negative 3 equals negative 3. And what that really means is we actually have this ordered pair xy. This is my x. This right here is my y. Going back over here, I have -2, that's my x, this is my y. So if I was writing my ordered pair and I'm going to change colors, I say, oh, that's -2, that's my x, and this is my y value. All right? Okay. Uh, Domain and range, function or non-function. When I look at this, if I can draw a vertical line, I can hit more than one point, if I can draw a vertical line, and if I can hit the picture more than once, it is not a function. When I draw a vertical line, I hit it 1, 2, 3 times. If I hit it more than once, actually, if I keep drawing it, I hit it 4 times. Here I'm only hitting it once, but I can hit it as many as more than once. If I hit it more than once, it is not a function. So this one is a non-function by vertical line test because at some points the x's repeat. All right, don't forget, domain represents your x's. All right, this is a continuous function, so it's all connected, so we're going to have to use inequality symbols. So we're either, as opposed to listing the points. So we're going to start off with domain being furthest to the left, and furthest to the left on this occurs at -4. So we'll go ahead and write -4, that's furthest to the left. Also, it's a solid line, and solid lines act like a solid dot, and they get a less than or equal to. So this will be a less than or equal to x. And then we're going to go all the way as far as we can to the right. So please remember, domain is the x's, so you're drawing to the x-axis. And this happens at 5, and that's a solid. So it's going to get that symbol. And basically it's saying, hey, the function can take on any x value between -4 and 5. So that's my domain. My range, on the other hand, don't forget range is being drawn to the y values. My range, on the other hand, begins with the lowest value on the y-axis. And again, you're drawing to the y-axis. So I'm drawing to -3. And at -3, I happen to see a hollow. All right, and hollows get a less than symbol. So this becomes -3 less than y. And then I have to go to the highest point in the y direction. And we're drawing to the y-axis. And we go, oh, that's a solid, and it occurs at 5. Solids get a less than or equal to. So y can be any value or all real numbers between -3 and 5. So less than or equal to 5. Okay. All right, this next one, is it a function or non-function? Well, when I draw a vertical line, when I draw vertical lines, it doesn't matter where I draw a vertical line. If I draw a vertical line here, I hit it one spot. Here, one spot. Anytime I draw it, I'm only hitting it one time. Because I'm only hitting it one time, it is a function. So this one, although it's a little bit weird looking, it's a function. One thing we have to be cautious about is this one has an arrow on it, and arrows continue to infinity. So know that we're dealing with infinity in this situation. So beginning with the x values, we draw to the x because domain is the x. Don't want to forget that. Domain is the x values. And when I do that, I'm drawing to -7. But I see I have a hollow. So this is a less than sign, not a less than or equal to. So less than x. And I have an infinity. Well, I'm continuing to get wider and wider in the x direction. So this actually goes to infinity. And I'm going to call it positive infinity because it's approaching infinity from the positive direction. So we have less than infinity. We can't ever get to infinity. Anytime you have infinity, it's just going to be that symbol. But in our answer, we don't leave that. We cannot have the, excuse me, didn't mean to cross out the x, but we can't have this. So now I have -7 less than x. We need to flip this so that the variable's on the left, and we have x is greater than -7, and that matches our graph because our graph is showing that it's any value or all real numbers greater than -7. Can't be smaller than -7. It has to be bigger than -7. All right. So then this gets really, really, really tricky. This arrow, it's going off the graph. So in the y direction, it's going down. It's going down forever. So it's technically going to -infinity. All right, or it's going to infinity from the negative direction. So we're going to write infinity. Infinity always gets a less than. Arrows will always just get an arrow. They don't get a line underneath. And then we go to the highest point on the graph. It looks like this is the lowest point on the graph. It does, but that arrow continues on, so it gets lower. So then we go to the highest point on the graph. And the highest point on the graph is at 5. And please remember, range is the y's. So our highest point on the graph is 5. And that 5, it's a solid line, so it acts like a solid dot. So it gets that symbol, less than or equal to 5. We can't have the infinity part, so we mark that off. And in this case, we're in the correct order. Y is less than or equal to 5. And that makes sense because our graph off to the side is going in that direction. It's like, oh, it's every value less than 5 going to essentially -infinity, just continues on. So our domain and range are those two values for this. All right, this next one's a lot easier than the previous two. Function or non-function. If I draw a vertical line, doesn't matter where I draw it, I can only hit that graph one time. If I can only hit it one time, that means the x's do not repeat. So this one is, in fact, a function. Domain is the x's, and because it's the x's, you're going to draw to the x-axis, which in this case is at -4. So we have -4, and that's a hollow, and hollows get a less than symbol, so less than x. And then we're going to draw furthest to the right because that gives us the largest value, and to the x-axis, and that hits it at 1. That 1 is a solid, so it gets a less than or equal to. So what this tells us that is that our x value can be any value between -4 and 1. All right, so that's our domain, and that's the way you would write it. Our range, we begin with the lowest value drawing to the y-axis. When we draw to the y-axis, our lowest value happens to be -5, and it's a solid, so it gets a less than or equal to. I should be doing this in red. So this is our y-axis. So this is -5 less than or equal to y because we have this solid here because it's a solid dot. And then we go up to the highest point on the graph. And the highest point on the graph is 4. But it's a hollow, and hollows get a less than symbol. So less than 4. So we're looking at the values in between. All right. So any value between -5 and 4. It does include -5. It does not include 4. Lastly, we have a discrete one. All the previous, they're connected. If they're connected together, it's called continuous, and you have to use the inequalities. Here, we have discrete or dots, which means we have to list the individual points. So please remember, if you have dots, you have to list the individual points, the ordered pairs. So what I'm going to sit there and go, first off, I'm going to check for vertical line test. I only hit 1 point. 1 point looks like a function. Oh, right here, I hit 2 points. This is a non-function. Why is it a non-function? Because the x's repeat at -2. Now, I find it helps me to make a t-chart. You're not required to make a t-chart on these, but it helps me to make a t-chart to make sure I don't list repeats. And I also get to see where why it is a non-function. So x, y. This first point is at -5, +2. Because all I did was go up and over. Then I go, oh, -4, +2. That's this point. Then I went -2, -2. Then I went -2, 2. And we see right here that these x's repeated, and because they repeated, that's what makes it a non-function. Then I have 2 and 2. Then I have 3 and 4. And then ultimately I have 5 and 1. All right, when we list our domain and range, we list them in least to greatest order, but we don't write repeats. So for our domain, it's going to be -5, -4, -2, 2, 3, 5. It's not a function because those x's repeat. Over here, the y's, or our range, we also have to start with our smallest, which happens to be -2. All right, our next smallest is 1. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 twos, but I only write it the one time. So we can now cross off all these twos. And the last one is 4. All right, I hope this helps. I hope you study for your test and hope it goes real well for you. Thank you.